Welcome to the Fitness and Mental Health Podcast. I'm Darren McInerney, and this is the second episode. So the second episode is going to be based on my relationship with my father and the death of my father. I said in the previous episode that I was going to delve into certain topics so the topics don't run on too long. So one of the most important topics to me was the death of my father, and that happened whenever I was 18 years old. Whenever I was 18, I tried to take my own life. I went through my own situation, and I always felt that some part of me didn't want to be here. And at the time, a situation arose, and it triggered me to feel that way. And very quickly, I went and I tried to take my own life. I want to talk about that at a different stage. I'm going to talk about all of those different moments in time on that episode. So I'll do that in episode 3. But for my father, 11 months later, he took his own life, and I want to step back before he done that, and I want to talk about how it got to that stage. I was always made to believe that my father was in a violent relationship with my mother. I realised through a situation that whenever it arose between me and my mum, and basically we got into a heated argument. She tried to provoke me, and there was lots of shouting, lots of screaming, and she provoked me to hit her. And that's whenever it dawned on me that that was the type of person that she was, and that's what she maybe done to him at the time. Now, I confirmed it with my brother that there wasn't multiple times that this happened. It was one or two moments max. But I can just imagine 15 years into a marriage with someone who was in and out of mental institutions and who was extremely hard to be around. I can only imagine what that was like. Now, I've never got to ask my dad about it because my dad took his own life before I was old enough to have that sort of conversation with him, so I'll never know. But I do know that whenever I got to know my father a little bit more, I was 15. I started to be around their home in Craigavon, where he was seeing a lady, and they were together a few years, never have any issues. Now, my perception on this is someone that has a history of hitting women will do it to nearly every woman they're with. This was not the case, so this changed my outlook on this, but only after my father was gone. So I had a negative connotation to my father when he was alive, which will always sit bad with me. But the good thing was I got to spend some time down there from I was 15 till I was 18, so I had 3 years around there. And it wasn't a lot between 15, 16, 17, because I moved to England when I was 16 and 17. So for about a year, on and off, I would go down there, stay there. They would help me get the football. Financially, we had no money growing up, so I needed help from wherever I could get it. So I reached out just for that help, so I could stay there and maybe get picked up from there, or they could drop me off. And it helped massively, it did. So from there, I got to know him a bit more, and realised that we had a lot of things in common. We love working with our hands, and maybe a lot of things that he done is why I do what I do now. Like I can really put my hand to anything now, but I was told that's also the way he was. He also had a keen eye for everything that he'd done, and he was self-taught almost everything, pretty much like myself. And maybe I was inspired by that, so maybe I am. That's the way I am because I know that. In the situation of moving forward from there, of how my father actually died, he worked his whole life from he was very young, and he had a lot of people close to him pass away. Now, this is all just from my perspective and on my side, and I seen. You could see in him that he was an old school man, an old school dad. Doesn't really talk. You know what I'm talking about. Whenever I came home from England, a few times we had a few scraps in the kitchen just messing about, and he used to say to me, "Oh, you think you're getting big? You think you're getting a bit of muscle, and you think you can do what you want?" And the two of us started scrapping in the kitchen. And don't get me wrong, I obviously won, but it's good to get one over your elbow. But I don't have many memories, and I don't have any photos with him as an adult, and it breaks me. It's not a nice thing not to have a photograph. I have maybe 2 photographs, I think, from being a child, but it obviously doesn't look like me, and it's a very, very old photo from when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old. So from there, my daddy worked a lot, old school worker, 12-hour shifts, used to leave at 6 in the morning, come home at 6 o'clock at night, you know, put the feet up, get showered, have a few beer, get up the next morning, do the same again. Done that 6 days a week, had 1 day off. Probably done that his whole life. And then one morning, he went to work. There was like one of those, the PSNI set up checkpoints, and they usually do it at a certain time in the year where they try and, it's usually around like the Christmas time, and they try and check more for drink drivers. And so obviously they stopped my daddy in the morning, breathalyzed him, failed the breathalyzer, and pretty much from there his life just completely collapsed. So I think he was only a slight point over, and the police pushed it. So it was pushed in court. The court was told that he needed his license for work. If he lost his license, he wouldn't be able to work. He wouldn't be able to keep his mortgage. And it didn't matter. They made an example out of him, took his license off him, and he then couldn't drive. So his transport for work disappeared. He then very quickly lost his job. Then from there, very quickly got isolated at home, had no work, had no car, and started drinking. So the drink took over him, and it just changed him. At this point, I wasn't around the house very much. I didn't see how bad this was getting so quickly, but as soon as I found out, I went up to see him, and I had to help him. We had to get him in the hospital. So we got him up, we got him in, got him sorted, and he came out. And we made a plan. Me and him made a plan. If I moved in with him, he would come off. He would stay off the drink, and I'd be able to help him, and I'd be there to to have someone in the house with him. And he made me a promise that he would never take the drink again. And I said to him, look, his warning was, if you ever do, I'm gone. That's your one warning. If you do it, I'm out. And I wanted to be strict, and I wanted to show I was serious. So everything was pretty good. And a few months later, I was working in Belfast at the time, so I was commuting to Belfast and back again, and I wasn't even getting to see him as much because I was working so much, and the Christmas hours come in, and with the Christmas hours, you're working right up to 12 o'clock in Forestside. By the time you get home, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Then you're back up again 6 o'clock to try and beat the traffic to get back down to work for 9. It was absolutely insane around the Christmas period, and I didn't realise that I wouldn't be around him as much as that he needed. But he fought through that stage, still fought through it, was doing well, and then it hit hard. It got to the point where he needed more help. Some of the worst stuff, he wasn't able to control himself. He was, going to the toilet in his trousers. He was falling down the stairs. He was just the worst of the worst. I was having to change him and clean him, and it just everything you had to do. Had to get him into hospital again. Trying to get him into the hospital, and trying to get him into the car, and trying to drive him to the hospital, and he was still drunk, and he was trying to fight you. He didn't want to go. He just wanted to be left alone. You could just see it just got a hold of him, and it just taken him, and pretty much it just got from worse to worse to worse. His partner at the time, obviously, he had pushed her away, and she had left, and she was gone for a while. He was completely isolated. From there, it just got worse, and I heard one day that he got very aggressive, and he was fully back on the alcohol again. And as I said before, if I heard he was back on the alcohol, I was going to go up, and I was leaving. So on this night, I drove up to Craigavon, and the front door was open, and all the lights were off, and I thought he was still in the house somewhere. And don't get me wrong, I was shitting myself. Couldn't see a thing. I went up the stairs. It was so quiet. I thought he was there somewhere. I thought he was in the kitchen, or I couldn't see. And I went up. I looked around the corner, and you could sort of just see into his room. My room was beside the bathroom, which is at the top of the stairs. His was in the corner. And as I looked around the corner, it looked like the blankets were, like just thrown into the middle, as if, somebody just threw them on the bed and left. And I never looked too quick. I generally was scared and didn't know what to expect. I was thinking that maybe he'd just come out of nowhere and he'd go mad, because that's what I was hearing. And I don't know if he was underneath the blankets or not. And he could have been, for all I know, or he could have been out. But I got my stuff and put it into the car, and I left. And then the next day basically, I was at work and got a phone call, and I got the news, and it's just come quick, come to Craigavon. And I got there as soon as I could. I'll never forget listening to Bob Marley, Buffalo Soldier, the whole way home in the car. It'll never stop playing in my head. Got to the house, and he had killed himself. He had hanged himself, and everybody in the house, police in the house, everybody there, they put him on my bed. And whenever you have something around your neck that tight, the blood pressure to the eyes, and sometimes your eyes can fully close, and his one eye was open, and he's on my bed. Just he couldn't close the eye, and you just see his face. It's crazy. It's a crazy time, and it was even thinking about it, to live it back is insane. But I just can't stop thinking, was he underneath those blankets? And if he was, I was minutes away from seeing him, and by seeing him I could have spoke to him, and by speaking to him I could have made a difference. I could have given him a bit of life. I could have made him feel like there was somebody there. Or was he not there, and did he come back? Did he go into a different room? Did he see that my clothes were gone, and then that fucking sparked him? And I'll never know. And I think that I don't know how to ever let that go, but anyway, that's out of my control, and you just have to take the best of it. But my thoughts after that, when I calmed down, was that when someone is in such a difficult position where they have to take their own life, and they're able to actually follow through with it, you have to understand that that's the amount of pain that they're in. There's nothing selfish about it. They're in absolute agony, and they're to actually go through with it is on a completely different level. Now, people attempt it all the time, and people say that it's an attention for help. Maybe sometimes it is. I've experienced that with my mum. She does it for help, and she's never going to go through with it. And I know that. I can see it a mile away. I can see it in people that say it to me all the time. But my father was never a person that would have ever spoke about it. He was in pain, and he done it. And the reason why I know that it wasn't a mistake is because when he took his own life, he took his belt, he tied it around the banister, tied it around his neck, and he held his feet onto the banister while he was choking. Now, he tied the belt himself, and he could have put his feet down at any stage, and he could have stopped it. He could have, but the pain he was in, he held on. He held on till he was gone. Now, I remember when I was younger and I was suffering, and I'm only realising now that when I look back what I had experienced whenever I was a child, that I had some form of depression as a child. I remember there was a string cord in our shower, and I remember I used to sit in the bottom of the shower just crying, not knowing why, just knowing that just life, I wasn't happy, and I had no idea what was wrong with me. I was literally crying uncontrollably. I got this wire, I think I was 12, and I just tied it around my neck as tight as I could get it and just fell down. And that was my first experience of feeling something like that. And I wasn't strong enough to obviously go through with it. I don't think I was even doing it to fully do it. I think I just wanted to feel what that was like. Now, that was 6 years before my father took his life. And the reason why I have a certain amount of respect for him is because I know that he's in a better place. I know that he's not suffering here anymore. And I know how difficult it is to go through, because I tried it 11 months before him. I failed. I didn't do it through that method. I tried to do it the easy way with tablets and alcohol, and it didn't work for me. And many times after that, I tried many different ways, and I was never able to fully. I'm still here, basically. And whether that's a weakness that I just can't get there, or whether I have a higher purpose, which once you hear the stories in the next episodes of what I did or what I didn't do, you'll understand that I genuinely feel like I have a higher purpose to be here. Now, that doesn't change how I feel sometimes. Sometimes if I did feel that there's no purpose, I still feel, as if there's something not completely right. But at the same time, I'm a different person. I'm a different animal now. I'm stronger. I'm ruthless. I know exactly where I should be. I'm the most loving guy you'll ever meet, and I care for people uncontrollably, and I always will, and it's a big part of me. But if I get crossed, you're gone. It's that simple. But back to my father. It was an experience that I don't think I still fully understand. At the time, I didn't cry at the funeral. I was watching everybody else, and I listened to the priest talking about this and that, and it frustrated me. I was like, you don't even know him. I got mad. I got so angry, and I just couldn't believe. I couldn't believe he was gone. I was just so mad, and but it fueled me for the rest of my life. It made me realise that life is so short, and he was gone in a heartbeat. And I used to be afraid to get a tattoo because I thought I would never get a job, and out of nowhere, as soon as he died, I knew that. What did that matter? Because somebody in an office wouldn't give me a job because I had a tattoo on my arm. And then 10 years later, now it's acceptable anyway. You get a job anywhere with a tattoo. But at the time, I was so afraid. I didn't want to do it. That fear was taken away from me when he died. I just knew there's no such thing as risk anymore. I take risks, and I suffer the consequences, and I deal with it like a man. So first thing I done, went and got a full sleeve and never looked back. If I get hit by a bus in the morning, I'm gone. I don't regret anything. The only things I ever regret in my life are some of the people that I hurt that should never have been hurt because I was in the wrong place at the time, and I should never have brought them into my life because I wasn't ready for it. But that's what a big part of mental health is. You do not understand what you're going through when you're going through it. Now, looking back, I can assess everything properly and I can make sense of things. But you'll never make sense of your father taking his own life. I can completely understand what he was going through, how he was affected, how maybe he was feeling at the time, and I only know a percentage of what he's been through. The way I look at life is, I'm 32 years old right now, and if you can imagine your mother and father, majority of the time they're probably 20, like at my age, they would be 20 to 30 years older than you. If that's the case, they're more than double your age, they've lived double your lifetime. Can you imagine how you feel right now in the years that you have been here, but your parents have lived double that lifetime. Can you imagine how they've felt, the things that they've seen, the things that they've experienced, the things that the trauma that they've been through, different from us. We're privileged. We have had things that they'll never have. We were brought up in ways they were never brought up. I remember my mum telling me stories that they used to have to go to school with holes in their shoes. Like, can you imagine? You'd never go to school now with holes in your shoes. You know, you're always, I'd say, 99 of 100 people are going to school well fed. You know, it's very, very rare, especially where we come from here, to experience those things. But we never have it. And they lived in a different life, and I can only imagine how he felt at the very, very end. The feel like he had no support, he had no way out, everything taken away from him, then not understanding, you know, where it actually went wrong. And then it stems back to 20 years beforehand, to whenever he had his family directly with him, his two sons, his daughter, his wife, and then all of a sudden his wife's in a mental institution. Next thing, he's getting divorced. Next thing, he gets fucked over on his house. Lovely house in Banbridge. He worked for and paid for it and worked every day. And then in the divorce, he gets feck all for the house. He gets shafted on the house. He has to fucking start again. And then years later, whatever happened in between that I don't know, I can only imagine how he felt in the end. And it's just not fair. It's not fair to not fully understand what someone's going through. It's not fair to have no support system that he deserved to have. Now, don't get me wrong, at the time he still had some of his brothers and sisters. One of his brothers took their own life as well, hanged himself too. So to experience that, his father died in a car accident. A car came out of a side road, hit him in the driver's door and killed him on the spot. His mum was in hospital for almost a year after that. That was my granny. I can only imagine the experience that he had went through at that time. Now, it took me a long time to get my personality back. The girl I was with at the time was the girl I was meant to get married to, and she was the person that was there to support me, and she was the only person that could bring me round. And I wasn't really talking at the time, and my life got upside down. I had a car accident at the time. I wouldn't speak to people. My life was just getting worse and worse. And I made a decision one day that there was a couple of people in my life, and they were toxic. And I just made sure that I got them out of my life. She was there as a support system. Her family were there for a support system, and my life started to change. When in the space of 3 to 4 years, I'd worked and worked and worked. I'd saved every single penny that I had worked for, had no bills. Finally got myself a nice car, and I went at 23, opened up my first business. And so the worst thing was the death of my father, but the best thing from it was that it gave me the strength to not be afraid anymore. So if you can think about some of the worst times in your life, you know, and how it made you feel, and you know how it took you back, just think about how good it could be if you take the good from it. If you realize that life is short, and you realize that there's more to life, you just need to be prepared to suffer, and you need to be prepared to move forward, and not be afraid to take risks. Risks are a part of life, and some risks aren't even considered a risk. At the end of the day, always look at it in the worst case scenario. What is the worst thing to happen? Say you take a loan to start your business. Say you take 10 grand and the business fails. You know, by that stage, how much do you owe? 6 grand, say 5 grand. And now you can't afford to pay for it. What do? You could ring that company and ask them for a payment break. Or, worst case scenario, you file for bankruptcy. And what happens then? You start again from zero. You might be worried that your credit rating's gone, that you'll not be able to get finance again, but that is the risk that you take. And that's not really a risk, because if you had worked hard enough, you'd have been able to pay the bills. You wouldn't have had no risk at all. You would have got there. You wouldn't have give up. So be strong. Don't give up. For me, I'll never ever be able to not think about that. There was a certain song, especially when you're linking this to mental health and depression. I feel that there's certain songs in everybody's life that if a song came on, it just strikes a moment in time and you just know exactly what that's linked to, and that dictates your emotions. So sometimes people will listen to those songs, they'll put their head away, and other times if you know that that's a trigger that's going to happen, you get that song off. And that song used to put my head completely away. It's a you should listen to it. It's an awesome song. It's called Storm by Lifehouse. And if you listen to it with your headphones on, close your eyes in a dark room, you'll feel how I felt, put it that way, and it'll give you goosebumps. It's amazing. But that used to put my head away to the point where I did not want to be here ever. And from there and now to the place I'm in now, I can listen to that and feel comfortable, and that's how I know I've sort of made it across to the other side now. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't be thinking that anything to do with my mental health came from my father. I honestly don't think it did. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't say that. I'm sure it had an effect on it in some way. It affected definitely the decisions that I made in my life moving forward, and I definitely feel that they all have a point, a place in time of where that affected my life and where it affected where my mental health went, and how bad it actually got. But I don't think that was one of the biggest triggers that ever caused it, and I definitely think in a sense it helped drive my life in the right direction. So sometimes in the most extreme adversity comes the hardest rewards, but that's only if you choose to take that reward and not to suffer in silence and not to take the bad side out of it. Now, whenever I used to volunteer for Max are a company, and they're based in area in Belfast. I think they have one in Downpatrick, and I think they've opened up in other places since there. They support children and young people that are minors, and long story cut short, I was asked would I be interested in volunteering. I said yes, it's a great cause. These kids have experienced trauma, abuse, mental health, drug addictions, and everything in between. The worst that you can imagine these kids having, you can't imagine it. And if you do, think worse, because that's what these kids are going through, and they're having to be rehomed in housing, and they're having to learn how to survive on their own as literally kids, and it's crazy to see. Now, what it did for me, it showed me that I have the ability to be able to help other people, and it makes me feel good. So that was another purpose to my life, was understanding that by helping others helps me feel good. Now, I've said this before, and you'll hear me saying it again. Having a higher purpose of helping others will help you. So if you're looking for coping mechanisms and you're someone who maybe suffers from mental health, have a think about how you can help other people and not just help yourself, because you are helping yourself by helping other people, but you also open up bridges, you open up avenues to create a path to how you could be successful, how you could have, a job that maybe pays you a wage that you're happy with, that allows you to do the things you like to do. We all are always trying to stick. At the minute, I'm seeing these flipping business gurus, and they're doing my head in, and it's always like make 10k a month, and be a millionaire, and take a photo beside this stupid car, and it's all false advertising, and social media is driving this, and I want to change that stigma. I want you to realise that life isn't about those stigmas. Now, if you want your life to be that way, and you generally truly believe, you're going to be a millionaire, you want to be a millionaire, and that's all you want in life, then go for it. That's your thing. But I'd say for 90% of the world, or 95% of the world, contentment is the word that I would use to describe what most people want in life. Now, my form of contentment, right, is to have enough where I can look after my partner Ernesta, look after the child Mason, and obviously look after myself, make sure I have enough to keep my businesses going. I love cars. Now, I've changed massively. I don't try and put photos up and show off, but I love them, and I actually wish that I could do that, but I don't like doing it because I don't want to rub it in people's faces. I work my balls off, and people don't generally see it, But it makes me happy having something that makes me feel happy, and I love having that. I love my girlfriend, and I love who's my fiance, and I love the child. Those things make me happiest. I love taking the child to play golf. I love taking him to the park, and those things give me purpose. Now I'll babysit him for a full day while Ernest is at work, and do you know what? I look forward to it. That's my day. And we do things together, and we develop a bond because of it, and stuff that I never had. And I'm not doing it because I never had it. I'm doing it because the child loves it. It makes my time with the child even better. We come home later on and we're happy. It's easier to get the child to go to bed, to go to sleep, because all you have to say to him is, did you enjoy the park? Did you enjoy golfing today? And he's like, yeah. And you're like, do you want to go again in a couple of days, or do you want to go next weekend? And he's like, yeah. And I goes, right, well, now time to get up to bed. Have we think about those things today, and then we'll get you up next week, And the child's like, yeah, happy days, and then goes to sleep. Now, the amount of people I hear that struggle with their kids, and I know there's different aspects involved for that, but in my experience, and I've experienced this in different levels, those things work, and they massively work well, and they're my purpose in life. You need to find your purpose in life. Now, I have people in my life who have cried about mental health. They have used a form of mental health to try and think that they actually suffer from it, and I can actually tell that they don't. They have other purpose in their life, and have, in terms of they have kids, and I have heard these crazy things, and I'm like, you have purpose, you don't use it, you're not, anything you're saying to me now doesn't actually make sense, and it's not even a cry for help, it's actually just attention. So some people genuinely suffer from mental health and really have no idea how to control it, while others use it and abuse it just for attention. And I 90% of the time I can tell the difference in between, and it really drives me insane. Because there is avenues, and the same person has also said, I don't have anyone. And there's situations where those people are there and have been there and have shown to be there and have shown care and love, and they overlooked it completely, don't even see it. So I can't even comment on how bad it is and how much it drives me insane. But you can understand the difference in those people also, and you'll know who to spend your time with, and who to give more of your time to, and don't be afraid to help others, because it will help you. Now, this is the second episode in the series. I might have missed some stuff. I'm getting better at this as I go. So this episode was based on my father, and there was no questions just yet. As I'm recording this all in one day, I'm doing all the episodes separately. I'm going to upload them all, and then we'll do like a question answer podcast, or we'll add them into the third or fourth podcast from here. So look, thank you for tuning in again. I hope this helps somebody again. I hope you can forward it on and let somebody listen to it. That got a wee bit emotional for me, and I didn't expect that to happen. I have videoed this one, so I will be posting this one up on YouTube with the episode, so you can watch that on YouTube as well. And the next one will hopefully be up in another 7 to 10 days as well. So thank you so much, and I'll talk again soon.